Welcome to Antonio the Artist Tutorials. I am here showing you a quick tutorial on how to look at simple shapes. I think if we observe well, we can literally draw anything. So here we go. We're gonna start with the general shape. You can look at simple, most general shapes. I'm seeing ovals within ovals. I'm seeing almost like big pickle shape here. So for me, I would probably start with an oval for the head and then another oval for the mane. You got an oval for the face, circle. You could do a rectangle for the leg. I would fit all of this in a circle. You have a line that connects the two. Your tail is gonna be pretty simple just to draw out. A little foot and a line and a foot. So when I'm looking at general shapes, that is how I usually begin. So we're gonna do this on paper, but just so you can get an idea. If I were to do just the face, now that I have an oval around the face and everything lives within that space, I can see this line, oval. I see another triangle here, upside down, oval and a line. I'm always looking at those angles, but we'll focus on that in the future. Trapezoid, circle, right? So just looking at those general shapes, there's a slight line there. You have pretty much an oval. You got these triangles under the eyes. So this is how my eyes are constantly seeing, is all these little shapes. So now I'm gonna show you what this looks like on paper. Okay, so now we have our paper out. Today I'm using watercolor paper, and your pencils are marked with either an H or a B. And so you can always tell which pencils are darker and which ones are lighter. H is gonna represent hard, and so that means it's a lighter pencil, whereas B represents brittle and bold. These are, I believe, charcoal pencils. And so what I always wanna do is start with the lightest pencil, which is going to be H. So let's start with the plain shapes of this line. I will put the photo reference to the side. So we're gonna start with the shape for the head. We're always gonna start lightly, because if you start light, you're able to then edit as you go. So if you cannot see what I'm drawing, that's quite all right. I know that I have these two rectangles down here. I have ovals for the feet. I have circles for the ears. Sometimes I don't even know if it's on the page right until I've kind of just drawn in these simple shapes to give me that idea. There's an oval here. It looks like I'm not really gonna have a lot of room for the tail. The tail is gonna go off the page. Okay, so far from what I can see, I would love to shift it over a little, but I also like that it's centered. So I'm gonna continue on with the face up here. So the face is gonna be in an oval as well. And let's do a triangle for the nose. Comes down, you got your two ovals on the side, triangle, oval, trapezoid above, little line, circle, and circle. So this gives me a good start for where I want to begin. Now I want to go up in darkness. So we're at 3H, super light line. Now I'm gonna move to a darker pencil. Let's see what we got. We got 6B. No, I don't wanna go that far. We have F and we have 3B. So let's go to F. F is going to be right smack dab in the middle. I believe it stands for fine. So let's go ahead and see how this works. So now I'm gonna start, I like the height of everything. Something that I want to look at is the head, or the mane is about 2/3 of the body. Right now I have it at about half. So I'm gonna identify that mane a little bit better, and I'm gonna draw in some furry lines, because now I'm gonna add a little bit more detail. Then I'm going to add in the second mane. Okay, that looks better already. Okay, and then I have the face. Now if I look at it, the mane is almost equal. I would say the big dark one is definitely a little bit longer. And then in between here and here, you have the mouth. So I'm gonna go ahead and start that here. Again, give it a little shimmy at the bottom, little squiggles. Triangle is more up. Okay, now his head is tilted a little bit. So I wanna make sure to get that in there. There's a triangle. There's both a triangle that is tall and a triangle. I'm gonna do ovals on either side for the nostrils. All of it living in a triangle. Okay, you can probably, that in if you like. Then we have, here's that. The eyeballs, we're gonna do the circle for the eyes, and then we're gonna draw a line coming down vertically, over and out. Again, I'm gonna do another eye over here, down vertically, over and out. So I'm just constantly looking at the different shapes. The pupils are actually not that big, so make sure to go small. Okay, and then we're gonna do the triangles by the eyes. There's that nice solid line there, nice solid line here. I'm loving how this is coming out so far. There's a line under the eye on either side of the nose that comes out and about on your cheeks. Okay, I'm looking now, what are those shapes? Where the face is. We'll do shading soon. I almost got to it ahead. There's less cheek over here, which is what makes it look like it's sideways. Okay, I might even give it, it has these heavy eyebrows up here, that those muscles in his head. Okay, so I think we got a pretty good head. We have the mane. Let's do the ears. The ears are much bigger than this. I'm seeing that the ears, if I were to look at the eye, lines up with the eye, and it goes above the eye here, so I need to go a little bit longer. Those squiggles again, squiggles. Okay, I like the size of that ear better. Again, I'm gonna look at the line here, the line there, and bring it out. I'm gonna make it a little bit more pointy on this side. Again, squiggles. Okay, now for the squiggles on the forehead. Very nice. Okay, now for the legs. So from what I'm seeing, my legs currently don't have really strong angles. I'm seeing that this leg is angled in as so. I'm also looking at the ear kind of lines up with where it should be. So maybe come out a little bit further. Slight ankle. So now is the time when you're looking at those shapes you created in general and you're now editing. You're giving yourself feedback. You're saying what needs to change. What are the new shapes that I'm seeing? The ankle. Okay, good. That's good there. Then you have the belly. There's this negative space. Negative space is the space in between the subject matter, the empty space. That's gonna help me get that shape more correctly. All right, there's another foot. The foot is higher than the one in the front, obviously, because it is in the back. So we wanna make sure not to put it all the way on the same playing field. Okay, and then this leg is a little bit more curved. Now, how far over does it go? It looks like, again, it's gonna line up with the ear. Now that stock photo is in the way, so I have to assume and use my imagination. This foot is on the same playing field, pretty much. Little thin one. Okay. I'm seeing this big dark line here. Okay, so now we have a general shape here, but now we need, so he has a back in between the mane and the knee. Then the knee comes out, it curls a little bit and it comes back out. So I'm looking for all those new shapes. I'm observing just that one area in my head. Let's do this foot. The foot is just as close. Similar playing field to the other foot in the back. So for me, even if I've never painted, or not painted, if I've never drawn something, I can do really good at just simply observing the photo. Making sure that I'm looking at how each shape compares to the next. Keep wanting to do shading, but we're not there yet. So sometimes shading helps because sometimes you have what's called suggested lines, and suggested lines are not harsh lines, they are shadows. And so sometimes it does help to do that. This foot. And then the tail. The tail is above the foot. And it's gonna go off the page. Okay, so now we're gonna do shading. We're gonna look at lights and darks by shading. So what do I mean? Okay, one thing I can lock in is that this portion of the mane is darker. Okay, cool. Now, everything else I'm gonna lock in because it's dark because of shadows, because I'm looking at the lighting. So let's start at the top. So we got ears, and it's okay if you just do squiggles. Okay, that's good. Obviously I already did that portion of the head. The nose is pretty dark. This cheek and under all the way up to the nose is dark. I would say a little bit above the eye. Okay. Okay, and then we have this shadow, big shadow under the mouth. We did the nostrils already. You can do that, a little bit of squiggle. The ear. Let's just color in both ears. Okay, this dark part of the mane goes all the way up. You got dark part of the mane over there. Okay, let's look at now, let's move down. I would say the left side of the arms are dark. Under the belly. The whole belly. And I think that's pretty good. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab what's called a darker pencil. So we are at F, let's go to 3B. 3B, that's 3H. Here we go, 3B. So now I'm gonna look in those areas that I made dark and see if there's anything that can go even darker. So definitely here. There's a line here, that whole foot. Let me get my F back. This whole foot should be dark. Now I'm gonna add the claws as well. Some dashes here and there. There's so many awesome wrinkles on this leg. You can zoom in if you need to and kind of look at those shapes. Thankfully, it doesn't have to be perfect. But he is wrinkly, so that makes for really great shapes and shadows and realism that you wouldn't really think of if you were just operating out of your own imagination. I'll speak for myself. I wouldn't think of doing it out of my own imagination. This side of the dark mane is darker. A bit underneath. I'm gonna push down a little bit harder. We don't want to push down to the point where it becomes shiny, but you can push down a little harder and kind of discover what works best for you. Okay, what about the face? Definitely above the eyes, almost as if it has eyelashes, that deep line beneath. What's great is they have this white spot under the eye, so if you just draw another circle underneath, then you can shade it in. You're gonna go darker on the cheek. curved manner. The mane at the top is dark. The ear can go darker. The fur around the ear is darker. Bit more movement on that hair. Okay, let's go back to F. And now I want to add some line work to the lighter mane. I don't want it to all be the same, so I'm just kind of wiggling my brush around. And then at the top. Okay, let's get that other one. So we got 3D. Darkening the top of the nose. It gets lighter as it comes down. I'm going to darken the nostrils. And there is a line in the middle of the nose and a line on either side that's kind of curved. Darken the tops of the toes, but they're light on the bottom. The left side of the leg is darker. Okay, now time for the 6B. That's F. That's 3H. 6B is going to be your darkest, standing for bold and brittle. So with 6B, I'm going to go back into some of these darker areas. You could really use that to draw out those very distinguished lines. As you can see, every time we do another layer, the layer that was there previously just seems to either fade away or just be way less distinguished. So you can always go back with different levels of pencil and make it work again. Every time we add a new layer, it's gonna push back what's already there. Things that are actually dark as well, by color, not by shadow, would be really great to outline with your darkest pencil. Sometimes I even reserve the lightest spots of my painting, or drawing rather. I don't even go darker, because then it just looks like I'm outlining it instead of shadowing it. So it's good to leave some of the areas that are light untouched. In this case, I'm having fun with the outline, but if you want it to be more realistic, you wouldn't even touch some of these light areas with a 6B. We'll talk more about that in other classes, but for now, enjoy the process. Do another layer on my dark. Just gonna darken some of those strands. Down to our finishing touches. Our lion. There you have it, friends. All right, and the last thing I want to discuss in this portion is, after you do your drawing, you can give yourself feedback. So for me, the number one thing I'm noticing is that the angle of this leg could have gone more this way, which would then push the mane out further and the leg out further. So I think in general that whole area could have come out further, because right now it kind of just looks like he's a young lion, whereas the photo looks like a full-grown lion. So the other part I would say is that the face is probably smaller. When I'm looking at the ears and the head, they kind of live in a triangle, and my triangle is a little bit more wide, whereas in the photo the triangle is taller. And so those are some of the areas that I'm seeing the mane, the lightness of the mane can come down lower, this can come down lower. So I wonder if in general just everything could have been elongated. And so those are some areas where I see that I can grow. What are some areas in your drawing that you feel are very clear things that you can grow? If there is anything else that you feel like I'm missing, or you have questions, just leave them in the comments below. Thank you for watching.